if you just said the game at like 10 o'clock yesterday morning, I'd be like, the game? I wouldn't even know what sport you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's how detached I am from ball-related sports right now in my life. So, lo and behold, Florida State and Florida had a game last night. It was a big game, but I couldn't.
Thanks for saying that, because I honestly didn't know what game you were referring to.
Exactly, dude. I wanted to give you the same.
Did the Bucks play last night? Like,
bro, that's exactly how I felt. So I'm like, the game, right? So, of course, the big game is on, and people are coming to my house. Amongst all the app subscriptions that I do not have the ones that I need to watch this game.
Yeah,
so for 15 minutes, we're trying to, like, you know how, like, the TV remotes, I swear my TV remote is not, or my TV is like a dumb TV.
Mm-hmm. That's actually funny, because I was just reading about people that have smart TVs, and they said when they update their smart TV, like the new ones, they're almost out of storage immediately. So like these smart TVs are bricking themselves because they're out of storage. Just trying to update themselves.
Wow.
And I kind of found that pretty funny, of like a TV making itself. You can leave that on the table if you want. It doesn't matter. I like things on the table.
Yeah.
Makes it look less cluttered.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm already rolling a little bit. I'll just cut that somewhere and start it. Let's get into it. We got Spicy Spence back on. The guy's got a kid on the way. Man, I'm pumped for you. It's going to be cool having a ton of kids all around.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure something out in this community at Bradenton or this area, because there's so many dang kids.
Yeah. Maybe they start like a motorcycle gang or something, or
yeah, led by Garza.
Yeah, Garza could be their triumphant leader for sure.
He would be a good leader of a motorcycle gang.
You know, when you say that, I think of the picture that somebody has shown me at some point in time of Garza when he used to be a police officer with like 10 little kids around him.
Yeah.
And I like think, yeah, he could actually lead a whole mess of kids. Like, you ever heard that riddle or joke or whatever? It's like, would you rather fight one really strong 10-year-old or 100 10-year-olds?
Yeah. I've heard that before. It's some variation of that, of like, which one would you rather have?
Yeah.
Like, have to fight. Or there's also the one like, would you rather fight like 100 ducks, like horse-sized ducks, or like one duck-sized horse? Like, if there's like because 100 horses.
A duck-sized horse would be this big.
No, a duck that's the size of a horse.
Oh, a duck-sized.
Or 100 horses that are the size of ducks.
Or 100 horses. Okay.
Because like that would be a tough fight. Either way.
The 100 horses the size of ducks would be a little scrappy, and fast, and they'd be zippy.
Like your dog.
But they couldn't really climb up you. It'd be like a chihuahua.
But one duck the size of a horse does sound pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially if it was like depending on the duck, like, I know they're geese, but like those Canadian geese would be terrifying.
Oh my gosh.
I can't even take one on now.
Yeah. I can't even take one on.
One normal Canadian
Neither
geese.
can most people on YouTube. If you're in a video on YouTube and it's you and a duck, I'm watching it because you're probably going to lose. Like,
that's why.
Against a goose or geese.
That's why Canada hasn't been invaded. It's the only reason. It's the Canadian geese. They would be done by now, dude. There would be no shot. Them.
We can't break their code. They speak in a secret language.
Yeah. It's the same with Australia. They have those, they have emus. And, you know.
I saw an emu this week, dude.
Emus are actually scary, whereas Canadian, they're like, our geese are scary. And it's like, oh, shut up.
So, you agree that emus are kind of sketchy, right?
Dude, their faces, they look like they're evil.
Yes. Okay, so I saw an emu like 3 days ago because the guy that raised our turkey for Thanksgiving, he's got a farm just off 62.
That's a very bougie. You went to the guy,
It's a friend in my neighborhood. What do you mean bougie? It's just a guy. I live out east. There's a guy that has a farm, and he's like, I'm raising turkeys. Do you want one for Thanksgiving? It was as simple as that.
You should have pardoned him.
Eddie, I'm just trying to get to the...
I know. It's just, I've never met the guy that raises any of my poultry before. It was the very next level.
It's like a Thanksgiving treat. Like, oh, hey, you know somebody that like is raising one on their own personal farm.
You're going to tell me you got your tree from him too? Your Christmas tree?
No, I got a fake Christmas tree. I'm not dumb.
I do hate real trees, but you saw an emu because...
So they are sketchy. And we went there and we rode the dirt bikes. I brought the 500 and I rode back up to the front of the property to get some oil from him. And the emus kind of hang around the front of the property. It's about 85 acres. So as I come back, get the oil, I'm starting the CR500 and I'm right next to a lawnmower. So I have my 1 foot on a lawnmower to help balance and then kickstart. And the emus have made their way over within, my gosh, 10 feet of me. And I'm laughing in my head. I'm like, oh, these guys are going to get so fucking
How many
spooked.
emus are we talking here?
2.
Okay.
2 and my height, 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
Like emus. And as soon as I start that 500, it was hilarious because they have these 2 legs, but they're huge, but there's no arms to like offset that like counter running motion. Like if you saw me and you running, it would look fine because there's not a lot of body waddle, but the emu is just like doom, doom. It
It does not look fine when I run.
It was hilarious to watch these guys dip out. They were
But
so spooked.
were you a little scared of them as they were coming up to you? Were you like panicking trying to start your bike at that point to scare them off?
The answer to that's no, because
They're dinosaur-like.
yeah, but I wasn't really panicking. Like I could have only hurt me so much. Like
Yeah.
I was more worried about starting the 500 and not getting the piston at top dead center and breaking my foot off. Like I was more focused on that than the emu. I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like I could just backhand an emo pretty quick and they would
don't
leave
know.
you alone.
Have you ever heard of the Emu War in Australia?
No.
The Great Emu War.
What?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Oh my gosh.
So
I was wondering where the hell are we going with these emus?
the Great Emu War of Australia. So it happened in 1932, and there was so many in Australia that it became a public concern. So they started a war, and they used like 10,000 rounds, and they were only able to take down 100 emus
What?
because they're basically bulletproof.
Why are they bulletproof?
So they spent years, and they were only able to get like 1,000 emus after years, and the gun jammed after only 12 birds were killed in this one story. So they had like a legitimate war going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's a known thing, the Emu War in Australia, because it was only 1932. It wasn't even that long ago.
No.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
And they actually declared that they lost the war. After so long of trying with such little success, that Australia,
Jeez.
I think that's like their main war in Australia was that
I
they
think
lost to birds.
This is something to be said when you have a nation that, takes all the guns away. I feel like if you had a war in America against some emus, dude, extinct the next Thursday morning.
100%.
Extinct. If America had to fight a population of rabid geese, they'd be dead in a week, all of them around the country.
Well, we're doing pretty bad against those snakes down in South Florida.
Oh,
the pythons.
yeah.
The rock pythons, because they're the mix of the ball python and the
huge guys.
anacondas or whatever they are. They're like a hybrid mix, and
Yeah.
they become so big and they reproduce so quickly that we basically can't.
You can't
do
really
anything.
control it, yeah.
So
Seems to be a
those are-
losing battle.
Yeah, we're not doing great against them, but I think the emus are just destroying crops is what their big issue was. They'll
Yeah.
just because they're like 6 foot tall birds and they run in packs of like 100.
Yeah, I could see them cleaning out some fruit and trees and
If anybody's ever bored, there's some good YouTube videos where people break down this war, and it's
Gosh.
very entertaining to listen
Wow.
to.
I am
Because it
interested.
paints Australia in a pretty sad light.
the Great Emu War. I thought you were pulling my leg.
No, it's
dude.
like an actual thing, and I've brought it up before to other people because it's one of those hilarious things.
Damn, well, thanks for sharing something with me I didn't think I'd learn today.
So next time you see one of these emus, no.
Oh, I'm going to ask the guy at the farm. Like, have you heard about the Great Emu War?
Salute it and maybe say thank you for your service.
Two tours and my grandfather fought the Emu War. 6 purple hearts. Then this guy's gun jammed. He got away.
Took 2 bullets on foreign soil. Oh, that poor emu. So
Rick.
Spencer sounds horrible if you guys can't tell because he just came off of Cletus and Cars like 10 days ago at this point.
Yeah, actually it would be 7
days
days ago. And this happens to me all the time. I think just with what I do, I lose my voice. And then when you lose your voice, you're like susceptible to illness. And then I kind of fall into like a rough cough for like a couple weeks. Sometimes I bounce
spiraling.
back, but
Do you get workman's comp? Like, do you get some kind of compensation
no.
post getting sick from Cletus?
No. I don't ask for it. I mean, that's funny though. But
have you done any of those? Like, I've heard people talk about it before. There's like speaking exercises, I guess, where like you can learn to like speak with like your chest instead of like your vocal
your
cords
chest
as
voice,
much.
exactly. So it's funny you say that. Before this last event, I had met a vocal coach that actually lives in my neighborhood, and so I went and did a session with her just to kind of like get a baseline. And I really liked working with her, so I went back and did one more after that. So I did 2 total, and then never really got back into it because I just got busy with house remodel stuff. So, but she was basically explaining to me so much. I'd never been to a singing lesson in my life, but this lady was telling about how you can breathe properly and save your voice and talk with your chest voice instead of your vocal cords. And yeah, I have learning to do but it's such a science though. It's all your muscles. Like it's the same way as any other muscle you can train. You're training those.
I've never been able to like comprehend that too. Like even that part I can't get past is like speaking with your chest muscles instead of your vocal cords to save them. And that's probably something I could benefit from learning a little bit more of because I spent a lot of time talking.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to get back in touch with her again, but you know, she was doing breathing exercise where like I couldn't replicate any of them right now, but she would teach you how to breathe into certain parts of your chest, and you like she's saying the words, and in your brain you're like, how the am I going to do that? But then you do it 3, 4, 5 times. She's showing you how, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling the air in this part of my body. It's so strange. Same thing with teaching, or same thing with speaking. She was teaching me how to like roll different sounds. So when you go like nay, 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 instead of doing that, put your tongue in the back of your mouth and go nay, nay, nay. And that's how you're using your head voice more. It's really weird. And you got to be like, I'm going to a lady's house making weird noises with my mouth in her living room, and her husband's in his office. Like I hear a TV on. I'm like, and I'm in here singing the national anthem. And she's playing the piano.
That's pretty good because for me, I avoid things like that, like the plague, like getting out of my comfort zone on that kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh, man, I'm so
it
bad
was
about
so
it.
uncomfortable, but I was like, here we go. Like, I'd already sung it in front of thousands of people at events, so it's like, if I can't sing it to a lady in her living room, but it's so intimate. It's like if I showed up, instead of doing tableside guacamole at a Mexican restaurant, I sang to your face. You'd be like, this is too much.
That does sound pretty fun, though. I love when the mariachi bands walk around at the Mexican restaurants.
Those are great, dude.
Yeah, like the little ukulele type of, maybe not
Canción
ukulele.
de mariachi.
Yeah, the mariachi bands. That would be a good add-on for Cletus and Cars if he had some.
I had a funny idea that when I got married, had I done a large wedding, I have this brother, Dylan.
Yeah, I wasn't invited to that, by the way, guys.
Yeah, nobody was invited to my wedding on
that
purpose.
Doesn't make it any better. That doesn't ease the pain.
Yeah. I always had an idea. I thought it'd be funny because my brother, Dylan, he's so unique. He's so funny. He's just a different character. I thought it'd be funny to prank him by, at my own wedding, having a mariachi band follow him around, but obsessively, to the bathroom, to the bar. Everywhere he goes, he's trying to talk, they're singing, and it gets him frustrated. I thought it'd be just a funny prank to do.
It couldn't have been that much when you're on the Bahamas. I mean, it's not, I've been there before. It's not the most wealthy country when you explore around a little bit.
Yeah.
We went to some of like the very poor sides of it, I believe.
Yeah.
Which felt like at least, but you could have probably paid somebody a couple $100 for the day.
Yeah, if I had done it there, but that would
have been a good time.
That would have been good. Yeah, the Bahamas was fun. I'd recommend going.
Yeah, it's a cool place. When we went, it was like still closed. Mm-hmm. Like it was just still closed. They were like, oh, it opens up in 5 days. I was like, of course everything opens up in 5 days.
So you were there, but a lot of attractions or things were closed, or what?
Yeah, like everything was pretty much closed still. Like
restaurants were still closed?
Yeah, they're like the hotel was all open and capacity or whatever close to, I mean, it was pretty empty, but the hotel was still open, all the restaurants at the hotel, the casino at the hotel, but then there was no cruise ships, so all of the town was still remodeling. Everything was like gutted on all the stores in the town. And then there was like a little military base on top of their hill. That was still closed. I wanted to see. It was like built out of rocks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, how old is that? It's like, oh, 40 years old. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Built out of rocks.
Like, oh, that's one of our newer buildings.
Yeah, I was like, okay. But yeah, I guess they got hit with a hurricane pretty bad, so
Yeah, they did.
the COVID kind of gave them this ability to remodel without a bunch of tourists there.
Yeah.
And then I was a tourist walking around while they were trying to remodel.
Gotcha. Interesting time to be there.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't get the true experience.
Where did you stay in Bahamas?
The Bahamas.
Bahamar? Okay, yeah, that was really close to where we were.
I think there's only like 2 or 3 hotels, like
Yeah.
actual hotels.
There's Atlantis, Bahamar, and then there's some sort of Four Seasons kind of program.
On the main island, at least. I
Yeah.
know there's like the secondary island. I don't know that area too well. I know there was an island I stayed at.
I just go there. It's okay.
Dude, so Cletus and Cars, I haven't talked to anybody about this, I don't think, but that van race, holy crap, dude.
You know, it's so interesting to see something so simple be the number one most requested thing fans want to see again. It sounds so simple. Let's just let vans race around the track, but then you don't really put into perspective, hey, these things are zipping. Then you put a jump out there. Then you put competitive guys. I mean, 130-foot jump is nuts.
Yeah, like distance of 130 feet, probably another 30 feet high in the air.
Yeah.
And we're just talking a kicker.
Yeah.
That was a kicker.
People don't know. It's no different than like my phone leaning up on this.
Yeah.
Like
it didn't have a crazy angle to it.
It had no like increasing curve. It was straight and level, and it probably was like 10 or 11 degrees. It was.
Yeah, those guys are wild for doing that. They were just seat belted in. I think people don't realize that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into great detail about the safety functions that we have put on the vans, but they're pretty.
It's their choice, though.
Yes.
They 100%. If anybody listened to my podcast with Jim York, he 100% just wants to jump vehicles into the air and crash them.
Yeah.
You can't really stop him from doing that.
He's a different breed of gentleman. He's crazy.
That was pretty nuts. I mean,
that was so cool to see. And the monster trucks was sick, dude. The pyrotechnics was absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, the whole thing really, I think they really put, I mean, I don't know, they put the entertainment aspect on like a higher, like on the map, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know. Sometimes I'm speechless about it because it was just such a cool small town event, but it was big, bro.
Well, you can only do so much with the Crown Vic race. It almost has to be such a thing around it now.
Yeah.
And I think that is such an important part because the Crown Vic race, you can watch videos or watch live, but the atmosphere of fireworks that God knows how much they cost.
Yeah.
I want to ask Garrett when he's on. I want to see if he'll.
Yeah.
if he'll
yeah.
talk
You
about
can probably
how much.
get it out of him.
He'd
Yeah.
probably say, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be interesting to know.
It would be interesting to know. But yeah, man, it was sick. It was the coolest event I'd seen in motorsports in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we had monster trucks, we had pyrotechnics, we had some of the best racers, we had some of the coolest channels, people to follow. It's like the Burnouts was insane. You know, having Australian people come here and play a part in our sport is sick.
Shout out to Kyle because he freaking laid it down.
Yeah, in Lucifer, that truck's nuts, dude. I was at the track the next day, like picking up something, and he was pulling it in. I helped him like just get it in the shop a little bit, but the car is insane.
That car is
like
so dialed.
It's like $100,000 motor, and then you like have to like get your car that you want to put it in and make that all work. It's crazy.
It's just so well dialed compared to everything else.
Yeah.
That it just like it's such a step above even the blower cars that everybody has here. That it's almost like it's like puppy kicking in a way.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
it's so good.
Yeah.
But it's not for lack of. It's not because he outspent anyone.
Yeah.
It's just because he's dialed in.
Yeah. I think
There's more expensive cars out there, for sure, 100%.
Certainly.
But it's just dialed.
Yeah. Do you think that's because he's just made a bunch of passes in it?
Yeah, I mean, he said he's done like 150 burnouts per year with it for the last 2 years. It's impossible.
It's kind of like Garrett would have to take Toast and Bumblebee out for a month, and 5 days a week, they would have to do 6 burnouts a day to get like to that, to quickly get to like, all right, we know everything there is. We got this car dialed.
Yeah, that seat time is
Maybe not that
impossible
much,
to replicate. Like unless you just do it.
Yeah,
There's no way to fake seat time in a car.
Well, it's like flying. You can't fake seat time flying an airplane, like building hours. Like you are either in the air flying or you're not. Simple as that. So when it comes to those burnouts, yeah.
It's kind of the same with like the Formula Drift drivers. Like,
yeah,
there's a reason Chelsea Denova's so great. He has a lot of laps.
Yeah.
Granted, he's not a Formula Drift driver anymore, I guess, but.
Well, dude, it's funny because I was just thinking, like, when you end a burnout competition, I'm like, looking at the cars I have that I have the ability to start building, and I got nervous a little bit. I was like, okay, let's say I deliver myself an 800 horsepower burnout car. It's got everything it needs to support it. And then I was like, I've seen Kevin pin up against the wall. I've seen Garrett pin up against the wall. These are some of the best drivers I know.
I've pinned up against the wall, and I'm clearly the best driver,
Dude, bro, exactly. My point, right?
Garza.
Professional driver. Garza, he hits the wall, and he's terrific. I'm like, damn, like, what if I go out there and flop hard? Like, it'll be the way the story needs to be written. But nonetheless, you kind of start thinking that.
Well, it's tough. Again, it comes back to the practice thing. Like, you build a burnout car, and you have it. It's ready tomorrow. How many times are you going to get to go rip it and dedicate the time to ripping it? And then after you beat on it, you have to, tires, clean it up, oil, fuel,
and then
all
go
this
rip it
stuff,
again.
and then go rip it again. Like, how many times are you going to do that to get yourself dialed in? Even if you bought the Australian's car, you bought Kyle's car right now, it was yours, whatever.
Well, here's what I would say to that. I don't think it would be how many times. I wouldn't give myself a number of times. It would honestly come down to money. Be like, okay, let's say I have $20,000 available to get myself comfortable in that car. Mm-hmm. Well, $20,000 might burn really quick on Lucifer, because if something breaks, it could be $20,000. But
easily.
You get the point what I'm saying? Like, if you had 10 grand to get your car dialed in and practice, get 10 grand with the tires, oil changed, and everything you need to be able to go out, blow them off, then come back. Because I've also thought about, it's like, how many pounds of pressure do you want to run in there? How much tire do you want left? You don't want a brand new tire. You might not make your 2-minute time limit if you have a brand new tire in a car that doesn't have enough weight back there to just like eat through the rubber. So how are you going to do that without testing, doing some test burnouts and stuff?
Exactly. It takes tons of laps. And Kyle was telling me his car, I think, is like $1,000 a burnout.
Whose?
The Lucifer.
Oh, yeah.
Like $1,000 per burnout.
I believe it.
When you include like maintenance and like engine and everything like that, like how much he has to service the engine, he includes that in the price per burnout. So like, yes, out of pocket each burnout may be like $200, but then at the end of 100 of them, you have to spend 50 grand or whatever it is. So dude, you have to add that into all your burnouts.
Gosh. Okay. So do the math with me. If they say it's like $1,000 a flight hour to own X helicopter.
Yeah.
But for 1 hour of flight time, you're going to spend $2,400 whatever. Mm-hmm. But then you have Lucifer that burns out for 2 minutes and it's $1,000 every burnout is what he said?
Yeah.
So
every minute.
Is it less, is it more cost effective to be a helicopter owner than it is to be a burnout car owner?
Probably. Well, how about you want to...
If it's $1,000 for 2 minutes, that means it'd be $30,000 for an hour.
You should talk to a drag racer that makes it pass for 3.5 seconds. Like a pro mod.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
You want to really shorten your stuff
3.5 seconds. And how much are they spending on rebuilding in between each race, right?
Oh, I mean, and then they show up with 2 semi-rigs, 10 guys.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's like the cost per 4-second wide open throttle is probably insane.
Do you think it's like $100,000?
I don't think it would be $100,000, but it's probably 10, depending on what you all include.
Gotcha.
If you really include all engine maintenance and all trans maintenance and all fluids, like
$10,000 for 3.5 seconds. Yeah,
per pass.
You're right, dude. So a helicopter's less expensive than every drag racing car of that caliber and burnout cars of that caliber.
So buy a Crown Vic because that's probably your most cost efficient.
Yeah.
But what do you do for the most cost efficient? Is burnouts more cost efficient than everything else? Probably more cost efficient than my drag car.
Yeah. I think it's the least expensive way you can have fun in the motorsports world. That's what's so cool about Burnout Open Class is anyone. Mm-hmm. Build something that you think will do burnouts, test it in your neighborhood, do it past the mailbox. Like, you got to give it some hits, but come to an event and shoot your shot. It's really cool to see that.
I don't do well with judging usually, but I feel after this last event, the judging has elevated. Because even in the driver's meeting, Garrett was like, yeah, you get into a situation where you have to put it in reverse, you're done. Like, you lost. If you, like, what else did he say? Fire, points off, you're done, you lost. Like, he's streamlined it a little bit where destroying your car now gets you nothing.
Yeah.
Where previously destroying your car got you a lot. And, like, I saw it with George. People were like, man, George should have won. He did the best burnout. And I was like, well, as a points situation, he didn't drive off the pad.
Yeah.
He had a car on fire. He didn't pop both tires. So, like, it was cool for the fans, but it wasn't a winning burnout.
Yeah, and that's where I think...
And he did a better burnout than me, because my car fell on its face, but I can still judge.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Everybody has two eyes, right?
Yeah.
It's like when people go, well, what's your area of expertise to talk about this? Like, well, I have two eyes. I know how to read.
And you've watched every one.
Yeah, I've breathed in every one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so first off, about your burnout, I found that hysterical. There's always at some point during a Burnout Rival show that I like to just bump around the crowd. So I was up in the big bleachers, and I turn around, and I was like, that's Cooper. And so Garrett had just announced the end, and I was like, and then, you know, it just didn't come together. But I was like, I had no clue you were burning out, so that was cool to see.
Well, what had happened was I lost my belt on my car, so I had no alternator. So fuel pressure was just like dropping when I tried to accelerate. So it was just like, it had a little bit, so like it didn't blow up the motor, so it would like spike when I went to idle. So that was my excuse. I can come up with some more if you guys want me.
Yeah, no, it's not an excuse. To be honest, it's not even an excuse. It's just like, hey, I was there. I was driving it. This is what happened.
Objectively, I had no belt at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like when I made this pedal go more, it wouldn't do anything because the belt, you know, it's like, it's just simple.
Yeah, and
no, dude. So it happens, dude. How many times have we seen guys get busted up on something dumb? So about the burnouts, that's what's interesting, right? Do you remember, I don't know if you went to Indianapolis the previous year when Parker Mitchell did the burnout in his Challenger and it caught fire and it was spectacular and it was insane. Did you see that?
I saw the videos, but I wasn't there for it.
It was in India, I believe. And what's interesting is he didn't win the burnout competition, but it was the most spectacular and talked about burnout, right? And so it's like you have this people's champion burnout that I think there's an opportunity to have like a one position finisher of the people's champions burnout winner, because you might not win on technical, you might not win the cash, you might not do that, but you might have had the most jaw dropping performance. And I think Parker kind of like made me think of that. I was like, because it was on fire, he lit the ground on fire, he got out of the car and blew the fire out. I think there's like a little bit of showmanship too. Growing up as a kid, Ronnie Renner would would race in X Games for these gold medals, dude, and he always would dance like a total goof at the end of his runs. And I was like, he's a showman.
Yep.
So when Parker got out and blew the fire, I was like, that's hysterical. Like, you thought of that, you did it, you executed, the crowd's laughing, you drove off. But that's kind of those burnout situations with George where it's like you can have the people's champion burnout winner, but you're not going to win on the technicalities, how we judge it and stuff like that.
For sure, because you need to have rules where people don't feel inclined to destroy their cars.
Correct.
Because then it builds better cars.
Absolutely.
You want people to build a better car that's not just something that they crash.
Yeah.
So, like, same with, like, FD. Like, they don't crash their cars on purpose in FD.
No, you're right.
I mean, Chelsea ripped every bumper off his car I think it's ever been on it, but
that
was more just proximity. Like, that was, like, cool because it was proximity. If, like I said with Kyle when he was on, I was like, if you hit the front of your car on a barrier, that's a loss. If you skim the back of it, that's cool. Like, that's, like, impressive.
Yeah, that's
if you
true.
Crumple in the back, not impressive. If you can just rip the bumper off just gently on a barrier, that's kind of like shows that you know what's going on. Like, you know where your car's at.
Yeah.
It shows some talent. And anytime you can display talent, I like that. And I like, I don't know if that's been announced or whatever, but Mike Massey, who judged this burnout contest, is a drifter. Like, he's a really good drifter, and he's been drifting for 20 years at DeSoto when it was still DeSoto.
It's true.
So he understands, like, style and smoke and rev limiter and stuff like that. Whereas other judges may not have. I don't know most judging history, but I know to see somebody that's in the drifting community understands these nuances of, like, a talented driver. Whereas you can tell somebody's in there just, like, throw the wheel and hope.
Yeah. That's what my first burnout will look like for sure.
You just throw the wheel and hope.
I think you just hit the pit maneuver and then go from there. Look for the light bulbs, know your barriers, know your limits, make your way. Be cognizant of which way the wind's blowing. And if you go make a slow pass into the wind, make a quick pass out of the wind so you're out of that smoke, and then just start back over. It's like certain parts of the pad. Like I saw Dr. Tunemal manage his pad and smoke really well. There was a situation where he had it open and he just did the whole line of the crowd. And he crawled at like a probably 3 to 4 mile per hour speed. He kept the truck parallel to the crowd and he was just waving. And it was like, that's great. You just made a slow pass down to everybody. That was sick.
Yeah.
And you weren't in the smoke. The wind's going behind you, so you're just like hanging out. And it was great. So
that was actually one of the discussions me and Kyle had was, do you, because I guess this is a big thing in Australia, like the slow creeping burnout like that versus the fast moving burnout. Like Garrett, every time he's in the Crown Vic or in Toast, it's wide open throttle off the brake. Almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Like he's got speed.
Yeah.
But you can also hold the brake pretty hard and have no speed and just kind of drive around.
Well, yeah.
You can enter with some speed and then you can slow it down,
Correct.
Modulate the brake a little bit. So it almost becomes, do you want to see somebody that's out of control almost, like looks like they're out of control with a lot of speed, or somebody that's fully in control with a little bit of speed, just kind of creeping?
I'd rather see the first. I feel like Garrett's
like
so.
George has hit the wall and gone over it almost with his speed.
Yeah, that's people that are just like, I pin it. I'm staring at my gauges. I look up every now and then. My gauges. Look up. Gauges. Oh, we just hit something. But no, I think the neighbor and the Toast burnouts are the best thing. It's full throttle. Your heart is shaking in your chest because the engines are so loud. I think that's the way to see a burnout, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the slow control makes sense at certain times. Dr. Tunemal was on a very first time I'd ever seen him in that truck in a burnout. So maybe he's done it with his other closer buddies, but I'm kind of removed. I don't know this guy's ins and out of his life, but I was like, okay, he's get out there for the first time. He did great, you know?
Yeah, he ripped
Managed the pad.
Awesome burnout.
Yeah, dude.
It was an awesome burnout. It's more of just a style debate.
Yeah.
It's what kind of style you want to go for.
Yeah.
Like there's this guy, Lynchy, down in Australia, and he's got a little car, NA, or it's been NA a bunch of times, and it's like he carries speed.
Yeah.
And like that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy if my burnout turned out as good as Dr. Tunemal's, but I think the goal is to have it be a Toast or a neighbor, because it is like you have to be in so much control to be harnessing 1,000 horsepower and pointing where you want to go.
And not all cars can carry the speed. Like,
That's
Nate's
true.
in a truck.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a 240. I should be able to control some speed with my angle kit, but I don't make as much power. So keeping the wheel speed up in the back without hooking up the car.
Yeah.
Like, because that's a problem too. Like my car starts to hook as things get warm.
Yeah.
As the pad gets hot.
What tire are you on?
Right now it's on a big one. It's on
Yeah, I'm
whatever
pretty
I
sure it's a
found.
big one.
I know.
I think that's a little too big to be doing burnouts.
For sure.
I think keep those size up front. You have a lot of grip, lowers the air pressure a little, and put some skinnies on the back.
That's what I need to do. What happened was in Indy, when I was going to Indy with that car, normally I run like a 235.
Okay.
But I needed Steelies. So where do you go to get 5x114 Steelies locally for free besides a guy that has a bunch of
throwing for free? Yeah.
besides a guy that has a bunch of Crown Vics? So I found like some old Steelies that were like dinged up and bent up in like a pile at the Freedom Factory. And then I found some Crown Vic tires that had already been used in a couple of races because I didn't have tire size. It was like 2 days before the event. And they were like, oh, you need Steelies. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So I kind of scrounged together some Steelies, and that hasn't played well to me.
Gotcha. Well, you'll figure it out.
What are you going to do for burnouts then? Are you going to do your 7.3 again?
No, that's like not a realistic. That's just an enormous vehicle to get in there, and it does little burnouts.
It's never stopped JH. The enormity of a vehicle.
Yeah, he's JH diesel, obviously, and Garrett sometimes teases him with JH gas. But there is one thing I've noticed that's consistent all the time. JH truck.
Yeah.
He's always in a truck.
It is always a truck.
It is always a truck.
There's
So
a lot of trucks that
what
do
about
burnouts.
JH truck?
JH truck and diesel and 4-wheel drive. 4x4.
I don't know. He's always in a truck, so I give it to him. He's a truck guy. His truck's what he's running.
I meant to say
His last
before-
burnout, it was really good though. It was dope. He's getting it down.
Yeah, he's always been good at doing burnouts if his vehicle can stay together.
That's actually true too. He goes crazy in the pad. He like is a neighbor or a toast where it is full throttle and it is very fast, and then the trucks just pop on him sometimes. But
He's a great driver. There's no question about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he's always done good burnouts. So
yeah,
that is pretty good at least.
people. So when I first moved here, I've never told this story. This will be good.
Bogetti Studios exclusive.
So Garrett, JH, and I are loaded up with the side-by-sides, and I think it's just the three of us, and we're going out to meet up with Ronnie Renner and a couple of his buddies out at this riding place. I think it's called the Compound or something, whatever. But they came up with a route, and they all wanted to race, and it was going to be a timed race because you can't see the whole track. It's very big. It was like a couple-mile loop. Mm-hmm. And I go ride it with JH. JH was so fast, okay? And a little sketchy. Like, we would hit some stuff where I'm looking at his wheel, and he's fighting the wheel just to keep us on the path.
Yeah.
That was the fastest I'd ever been in a side-by-side. He is insane. And
Well, he's usually one-handed too.
yes, that also.
He one-handed drives.
Yes, you're
no matter
so
what.
right. So we had never raced this course. Like, we just got invited out there for this day, and we'd never been on it before. So we do some like test passes where we learn the track, but most of it was just U-turns and 90s, and like it was very sharp stuff. So you're going fast, and then you're on the brakes. So we tested out, and we like kind of make our passes, but then I was with him on his like timed run. It was absolutely nuts. And then I go with Garrett on his timed run, and we flipped it over the very first turn. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story was like, if I go do these jet boat stuff with Garrett, which we do in the jet boat season, like that's an insane level of fast too. But I don't think I've been scared with Garrett in the type of way that I was like uneasy with JH, where I was like, dude, JH was a fast. He's a very good off-road driver too, dude.
Yeah, and Garrett said that before too. He's like, I suck on dirt. Garrett said
He
I
does
suck
say that.
on dirt.
Yeah.
But JH is great on dirt.
He's great on dirt, and he's proving himself on the oval, dude.
And it's weird to hear Garrett say that he sucks at driving something in some condition.
Yeah.
It's not normal. And to actually see that, because he's pretty naturally good driver.
Yeah, but like if you go watch him out in Glamis, like, I mean, he rode all that. That's dirt. That's sand. That's worse than dirt.
Yeah.
That's less traction, less predictable, less stable than dirt. And he seemed to have a pretty good program out there in Glamis.
It's nice that it doesn't get as dusty in Glamis.
Yeah.
Like any dirt in Florida is like immediately dust. It's just like constant,
Pretty
just
rough.
like brutal dust. If you try to follow somebody, you just can't.
Yeah. Well, there's no middle season in Florida. It's either the floor is saturated, the ground is wet and muddy, or it's dust.
Well, this season has been dry in Bradenton.
Yeah.
My grass was hating it.
Yeah. It hasn't been nice.
Yeah, I know. You were working on your irrigations, trying to at your house, right?
No, I wasn't working on the ear. Oh, I did cut a sprinkler line digging for something, but my sprinklers haven't been on since I bought the house, so
I know. I don't use mine either.
I just buried it back up.
I have a well, but like I don't need it to go on.
I bought my
every day.
house with the well broken / not working. So the well runs the irrigation. So it's like a whole program to get it done. Dude,
Mine worked fine, but I kept using it, and I was like, okay, great. Like first thing in the morning, it gets my yard wet before I'm gonna let my dogs out. Great. Like that's what I want. Like a wet lawn right before I let my dogs
that's
out.
a really good point. That's a really good point.
So fun.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know, dude. Did you go to the Cletus and Cars? Or sorry, the Cars and Coffee?
I did go to the helicopters and cars and cars and coffee.
Copters, Cars, and Coffee. That was pretty cool.
I know.
Did I see you there? I mean, I was there briefly, but I probably saw so many people. But
I'm excited because now we're in like cars and coffee season. I hate to say it like that, like sound like such a fucking pinky out.
yeah, dude.
Roll up
you
in
and your
my
CTSV. Exactly. You
Park behind a
fucking
Porsche.
loser. God.
It's Cars and Coffee season, though, man.
Bro.
Chris was just telling me, Project Prime, that the one at UTC, I think they're doing live for, and he's bringing his big Megatron. So
that's
UTC
pretty cool.
does a huge Cars and Coffee, like one of the biggest in the country.
That's really cool.
I think it's like UTC, and there's one in Atlanta that's like bigger. They do
Project Prime's killing it, dude. That big screen they bought is dope.
Super sick.
Yeah. He's trying to make his money back on it quickly though, because I asked him, I was like, hey dude, one of the days when you're not using it, why don't we just do like a football night at my house? He goes, yeah, dude, $7,500. So he's like,
yeah.
Then I thought about it, I was like, the whole idea is to use it. So if somebody wants to use it, I was like, yeah.
You too can have a Megatron.
Yeah.
In your yard.
Oh no, he spent big money on that. That's a boss.
Maybe your next child's birthday party.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
You can have a Megatron.
It's just a collage. It's like 100 pictures that rotate of her, and people are like, wow.
You can do it like a video though. You know, you can put together something real quick, have them edit it also.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. For $7,500, I want a video edited.
Yeah, I think it comes included. It is interesting to do a live feed of a Cars and Coffee. I feel like that'd be a nice, calm Sunday watch in the morning.
Yeah.
Just live cars pulling into Cars and Coffee.
That's true. And then some drone footage peppered in there.
Yeah, like I feel like
people love Max on the drone, dude, at those events.
He is really good on the drone. He does a lot of flipping, which I am normally opposed to on drone footage. I usually prefer when my drone is more stable. Mm-hmm. But he is a great pilot. Yeah. No question about that one. Yeah. But
he's very good.
In FD, I've always complained about that too, is the drone guys try to get too showboaty.
They do.
Like, just follow the car. I don't need, like, an inverted flight at any point.
Yeah, well, the idea that I think of is if you built a five-axis cable system, or sorry, why am I saying five? A three-axis cable system, and it was like a grid that was like a mile long, you could move a camera in all the infinite positions that would need to be. So that's how I think a drone pilot should fly too. Like, be in those infinite positions that you can be, but we don't need that. Like, fly. You just show me the best camera angle.
Yeah. Please don't be upside down at any point. I don't need a flip. Yeah. It's cool.
There's not obstacles. They're like, think it's like the Red Bull air races. Yeah. They're also flying. They're like, well, they're racing, so I get,
It's crazy because I don't think I've ever really seen them get taken out at all.
Very seldomly.
Yeah, like not common.
No, I can't remember the last time I've seen a footage of a drone at a race event getting cooked.
Yeah.
I mean, they have those goggles on. They're just sitting there flying. They feel so spatially aware of how much room they have. They know their tolerances. Because you've seen those stuff where guys will fly down a chimney and then they fly out and then they're like in these rooms and it's like they're going so fast. Like, how do you fly that?
Yeah, you see like the military does that. They'll like breach rooms with like a drone first.
Damn.
Like,
I mean, I could
somebody
imagine,
on that just like that's the first thing to enter a room is like a guy on like first person.
Yeah, right. Ooh.
Yeah, like and then you're just like clearing rooms on like handheld. Yeah.
XX, RB.
They didn't even have that on Call of Duty when I used to play. Because, you know, Call of Duty would always have like the new stuff that was probably going to come out. And they didn't even predict that one.
Yeah. They didn't have all the tech.
No.
I think Call of Duty is, they usually come up, they dream big on there.
Yeah, and they didn't even have drones breaching rooms. They had dogs still when I was playing.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't played in a while.
No, I think it's been a minute.
It's been a long time. Do you have any game systems?
I have an Xbox that gathers dust in my garage.
Yeah.
Like, we got a new entertainment center, and I picked up the entertainment center with the Xbox in it. I just unplugged everything, and I never, like, brought the Xbox back inside to show you, like, how often it was being used. But there were times where I would use it a bunch, but then it just phases out too quick.
I know. I feel like sometimes I like reminisce. I'm like, I'd love to like play a video game because like I used to when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But maybe I just burnt myself out.
You get hooked back again, and then you can just like veg out for like a full day and do it. And it is kind of fun, but you have to have your schedule cleared. And we're married, our wives are pregnant. I have one baby.
Yeah.
One child already. Like there's really no time to video game for a day.
That's kind of the tough part. Or you can just stay up late. And it was Black Friday. I could have bought like I think the last one I had was an Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I never even had like a one.
I got a question for you. What do you think about Parker getting this boat back to America? What challenges do you think he's going to encounter?
I think he's going to encounter a lot of challenges.
Listen, we're not wishing this upon Parker. No. We're not wishing anything, but what do you think?
I think the first challenge that he's going to come across is buying it and building it before knowing how to get it to the U.S. I think that's a questionable move.
I like that though, because that is an all-in mentality.
That's really rolling the dice.
Bro, I fucking roll like, I love that. He goes, we're just doing it and we'll figure it out. I'm okay by that.
That is the better way to live life.
Yes.
For sure. I'm not saying that's not the better way to live life. It is.
Yes, but it created a scenario. Explain that scenario.
Where now it's either stuck over there or stuck in customs somewhere, because that's the other problem is you can put it on a boat, send it to America, and then once it gets to America, it may never actually be able to get to you. So you could spend all the shipping cost, it land in the U.S., but customs in the U.S. never lets it out. Because in Thailand, they'll let it go. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
The Americans will deal with it once it lands in.
Yeah.
It'll land in L.A.
So
it's going to land in L.A., and then L.A. gets to go through it, and they're going to see wood. They're going to see a non-U.S. based invasive species, I'd imagine they assume when they see any kind of organic material. And that's going to probably be one of their red flags. I went through shipping a car from the U.S. to Australia. I was part of that process. Australia is not very kind to just take in random things. They weren't super stoked about that. Like any fuel in it, any oil in it, anything inside the car. Like when the car showed up in a container, the customs agents pulled the car out of the container and went through it. Like it wasn't just like looked in the container, and it's a lot.
Yeah. So you think there's going to be an invasive species issue with the...
I don't know if that's guaranteed. I think they can find something is my always worry.
Yeah, okay. Next thing, what do you think about it being I don't know the legitimacy necessarily of this boat manufacturing. Was it a company? Do they have a license for resale? Is it their boat design?
Yeah, you're talking on the tax side of things.
I'm not even necessarily saying tax, but like if you don't have a bill of sale or like a VIN number, I mean, does the boat have a VIN?
No, it's just like a couple trees that were carved.
I mean, I don't want to take away from the building. I haven't seen it with my own eyes. It looks fantastic on video.
Yeah, it looks great.
So I know there's some craftsmanship going into it. And even in the videos, you see the shop that it's in. It's like, I don't know if it was built there, but the point I was saying is like, does it have a VIN though?
Well, where did the engine come from?
Well, that's the next thing. Well, we can talk about
the EPA. It wasn't a crate motor engine.
Yeah.
It was probably from some vehicle.
Yeah.
That somebody may be missing their engine on. Some guy walked out of his house in Thailand and realized he didn't have an engine in his Hilux.
His 4JZ is out of his truck.
That's potentially part of it, but it has to land in LA. And my always worry with those things is like, show me the person and I'll tell you the crime, instead of like,
okay,
you know what I mean? Like they'll see something like that and like figure out why it's wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of like, that's always my thought of like,
yeah,
I don't know what you would call that. It's more of like a pessimistic, like assume everybody's looking to like screw you over in a way. And like some guy at the port is probably rather be like, no, send it back than like figure it out to help you get it in.
Yeah, I got you. You're not very optimistic about the hurdles being able to all be overcome.
I imagine they can all be overcome.
Okay.
But I worry that like you're gonna call somebody and they're just gonna be like, "Yep, sorry, can't help you. I don't know."
So you're
like they're just like because people just suck and they don't want to do their job.
Sometimes people don't care. Yeah.
And yeah, like you'd have to find the person that cares versus most of these people probably would rather jam you up.
So you feel that more people want to make it a problem than they want to make it disappear?
I mean, I would imagine it has to land in California too, so that doesn't help anything. Because if you look, it either has to go through the Panama Canal and make it to Florida, or it has to land in California.
Panama Canal is very expensive for them to go through. Do you know what
It's like Chinese run at the moment.
Yeah, you'd have to look at the tides in this time of year and stuff like that to really see what their path would be. And maybe that's more even easily Googleable.
Go through the Horn of Africa.
Yeah, the Cape Town or whatever. Mm-hmm. The Cape of Good Hope, I think it's called.
Yeah,
where all those great whites are.
Exactly. So you kind of have to also see on that side of things.
Yeah.
But I guess because it doesn't have a VIN number, maybe it'd be fine. because if it did have a VIN number, then the EPA does have a little bit more control over it.
Yeah. Well, what about it being a compound turbo system with aftermarket fuel? Like, do you think the EPA is going to be like, do that? I heard that someone was telling me that he's going to just have the block sent in and then he's going to put the aftermarket parts on here with American aftermarket parts, which makes sense because all you're doing is a motor. You just have to buy the parts here and install it all here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like something crazy, too. I think it's just like a Isuzu Duramax style motor. Like the same motor that's in my truck is a Isuzu build. Like,
yeah.
Isuzu builds a bunch of Chevy stuff. I don't know what he's going to run into. Parker, he'll be on eventually to talk about it because we were already talking about him telling us some of the behind the scenes stuff because I'm sure it's a pain in the ass to go through all that.
Yeah. I want to hear about Thailand, dude. I want to do a podcast with Parker because that'd be fun.
We should have called him.
Yeah.
We should have told him to come on today because he's probably just sitting around playing video games.
He's probably catching up on sleep, though, because he got into town like yesterday, I think.
He's probably playing video games.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably playing Call of Duty, Warzone or something.
Yeah, bro.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what kind of things that runs into. I mean, it's cool and all, for sure, and it'll be... I mean, you've been on those riverways. Do you think something that long is going to be efficient on a river? On Peace River?
Yeah, I think there's sections that you'll be able to go fast and there's sections you won't.
But even like the sections that you can't go fast, is it going to be difficult to traverse?
Difficult is yes. The answer to that is yes. Can you do it? I also believe yes. I think if you like know how, and Parker's a pilot, I think he would have a good eye for the line to have that thing. But he texted me yesterday and he goes,
it's also not going to be here for probably 6 months.
Yeah. He might have a kid by then and he might be like, oh, one owner.
I don't think he'll have
never
a kid.
been put in the water.
I don't think he'll have a kid in 6 months. That'd be real record timing.
You get what I mean, though. He might be like pregnant, have a baby on the way.
Exactly.
You know,
it'd be impressive.
Yeah. Well, the text before the text I was going to bring up is because I said he texted me yesterday. I was going to read that, but the text just above that's just as funny, and it's, dude, I just watched a guy fall down an escalator.
So in the U.S.
Not in the U.S. Oh, well, he goes, always wanted to see that happen.
Dirtbag. So I don't want to speak too much on this, though, because last time I talked about something of Parker's, I cursed him, allegedly, when I said he's better off parting out his Mustang instead of trying to sell the whole thing.
Did people get mad at you for that?
No, Parker said I cursed him.
Oh, really?
He wasn't happy about that.
Oh, gotcha.
He said I cursed him on that whole deal, but he ended up selling it for not what he wanted to sell it for,
Gotcha.
But he did sell it running. So he did. I didn't curse him too much. He sold a running, driving Mustang.
Yeah. I think that's hard. I don't know. I don't have a drag race car, and it's not a sport that I think I would go into.
What would you go into? What would be your sport of choice?
Right now?
Yeah. Competitive house remodeling.
Dude, you're right, bro. Oh, I know. I live this life of I am 100% I tell people what I'm going to do and never do it guy. That's what it's been like for a little bit.
But what would you like to,
I don't know.
You've been a part of all of them. You've done the sprint boat racing stuff with Garrett, which I don't think we've ever talked about on here, but
no.
You've done all of that stuff. You've gotten to experience side-by-sides, jet boating, john boating, airplane stuff. Like,
yeah.
What would be like your competitive sport of choice or none? I mean, you don't really need to.
Yeah, it's not that it's a none because I definitely am a competitive person. Like I
know
like
you're
to
a two-wheel
compete.
guy.
I like motorcycles. I grew up on them, and I could see motorcycles being fun. The only concern about motorcycles is I don't like the idea of going out for rides with my pals to like a place. Like when I grew up in Arizona, we would ride there. There was mountains off in the distance. You could ride 2 hours, and there was better, let's go on a ride up to these places because you'd hit the turns, you get a little sporty, and you're out having a good time with your buds. But I'm not into that anymore. So I would have to have like a community or a friend group that wants to stunt ride these bikes, and then I'd have to like go do that. But that's not a competitive sport. Like there's no who do you win, what do you win?
Yeah, you're not
You know
like
what I
trying to
mean?
better your time or anything.
Yeah. But here's what I would do. I think the next most competitive thing I'll get into would be burnouts. But even if I did win, I would still fall into that category of not taking the money because I don't feel like it'd be right. And like that's a shot in the dark if I ever did win. But this is for the fans. You know, I'm part of the team in that aspect, and I want to have fun too and do burnouts, but it's not my money to win.
But if you self-funded a car and like really did everything, like, and it's a judge thing, like, I don't think it would be wrong to take the money. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do this.
Yeah, but I would
like,
do it.
Granted, it's different. Like Garrett's funded cars, winning his own event.
Yeah, but
if you know, out of pocket on this deal, like, you know, recoup something, pay for some tires, like.
Yeah, but I think
because if you don't take the money, where does it go? Second place?
I think it should go to
just back to Garrett.
The next best non-associated brand competitor, like the non-Cletus McFarland brand competitor. I feel like the first that they should get that's just what I think. That's if I won.
Garza said the same thing.
I'm
He
only
said if he
speaking for
wins,
me.
Garza said when he wins one, he's not taking the money either.
I would never do that.
And Garza's really close to winning one. So
yeah, I think what would happen is, like you're saying, recoup some of the money. I think naturally, if I develop a car, I think it would end up on one of the car haulers. I think it would end up there along with all the other vehicles. It's not like it would be an expense for me to get out there to do that. And I mean, that's enough. You know what I mean? So.
It's tough. I mean, it's definitely.
I see what you're saying. Like, if I spend 20, 30 grand on a burnout car and I'm out there competing and breaking it and I have to pay for it when it breaks, like, that's just part of the fun,
You buy your tires, like, you spend money on this
buy the
thing.
tires.
It's not like it's just free
and then all the
for you.
testing to get it to show ready. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, I mean, I'll also be the one driving it on the road. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be getting other uses out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe, depending on how crazy of a burnout
So competitive then. I mean, what would you... It's tough because, yes, you could be like, oh, I'd like to do motocross, but then it's like, well, where is that? Or like, you know, drifting, but then it's like, well, when and where? Like, because that's the other thing. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I want to start road course racing. Because it's like, well, oh, okay, but it's not local.
I got something for you. So I was watching CR500 videos in bed with my wife the other day. I was like explaining to her.
I really enjoyed that.
Bro, well, listen, though. My wife, I respect her immensely. Because I had talked about the 500. It's been at the house. She's seen me rip it in the backyard. And then finally it was the night where the air was right. The mood was ideal for me to have enough interest from her to show her, like, let me explain to you why the CR500 is what it is.
Yeah.
The backstory, the history, how powerful it is. Watch these videos. And she's in bed going, damn, this is nuts. So then we ended up on X Games winter half-pipe hill climbs on the Harley Davidsons. And I'm sitting here in bed going, these guys are driving up an icy hill with screws sticking out the tires for a gold medal in the Winter Olympics.
You know,
I was
they're
like,
leaking oil.
I was like, yeah. I was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
I was like, there is no amount of skill I do not have to be able to haul ass, fight those bikes up the hills. It's like, I was like, damn, it'd be so funny to just like dedicate time and money and just be like, I went and got a gold medal in the X Games. Some of the guys are 48. Some of the guys are 22. Some of the guys have tons of experience. Some of the guys had no experience. And I was like, I know I could get to there.
The barrier of entry is not insane on that.
Yeah.
It's really not.
I was like, I literally am tempted to go to X Games, email them, ESPN or whatever, and be like, hey, where are the qualifiers? Like, show me the qualifying races. I'll see which I need to make, how many points get you a qualifier to be in the Olympics. It's probably only, how many drag racing ice hill events are there a year? Like, you guys are talking about the smallest sport. Even in the X Games YouTube video of the gold medal runs, there was 150 people watching. There's like nobody watching. You guys know how 150 people is small? Like,
yeah.
So I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, I could go win a gold medal. Hypothetically, I was pumping myself up.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I could compete in that. So
I think about the same with like a world record. You know, like there's got to be some out there that aren't super unattainable.
Yeah, to have like a Guinness thing here. And it's like, yes, it's not, I'm not talking something dumb like chopping watermelons, but catching 100 fastball, how many fastballs in 24 hours? And you just have two machines, boom, 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 or three machines. And you're just like, train for it.
Something along those lines. Yeah. To like find a low-hanging fruit one in a way.
Yeah.
And go for that one.
Yeah.
And that's the same with like the X Games. Like find like a low-hanging fruit one almost. And no disrespect to those guys. I'm sure the guy that won it is a beast. Mm-hmm. Like, but it's not, you know, it's not front page.
Didn't Garrett do a Guinness
stuff.
World Record thing, like amount of donuts around a Canadian, or was that not a...
It wasn't a technically Guinness.
Okay.
You know, it was more of a redneck.
Gotcha.
Redneck Records.
But
that'd be a great book.
Redneck Records?
Like, you know how they used to do like the Guinness?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or like, I used to get like the Ripley's ones all the time. You do like a
Yeah.
Redneck Records.
That's so funny. But yeah, I've thought the same thing. But yeah, competitive sports, it's hard for me to say exactly what I would do, but I like competing. I mean,
Yeah, I know that. That's why I was like kind of wondering like where's the outlet almost.
I don't think I'm at a
Like
place
a
right
local
now.
softball team,
No,
a
gosh.
bowling league.
Mentally, my motivation right now is finishing my home, like getting it just where everything's done.
It's like a project car though. It's never really finished or never really done.
I agree, but I think I already have our end goal in sight. We've already accomplished most of our list. We're very, very close to being completed. And then I can do whatever I want in my sports or stuff. But
what brand bike is the CR500? I don't even
that's
know.
a Honda.
Is it a Honda?
I think the bike I would buy right now would be a Ducati Hypermotor. They just released a new one. It's a very impressive machine, very lightweight, but very sporty.
Do they finally not have dry clutches?
No, they still...
So they still rattle?
You can put different clutch
but they
baskets
still
on. Yeah.
at the friggin' light, and it
Yeah.
sounds like your nicest bike you can buy is about to blow up.
Yeah, it always...
I'll be honest, I don't know anything about bikes. I didn't even know what a CR500 brand was.
Yeah.
I know Yamaha builds some cool shit across all spectrums of things.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Something cool about Honda is Honda has, outside of Harley Davidson, Honda has the largest market share of any power sports, of all the power sports industry. More than Can-Am, more than Polaris, more than all those. Honda is the largest brand outside of Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
And that was the case a few years ago. I could be wrong today, but I can imagine it's still the case because they had a sizable lead over all the Suzukis, the Yamahas. And so Honda's been a brand that I've always been able to like really get behind. They create their bikes are the most expensive on resale because they just hold their best value. And the 500's nuts.
I've always been a big fan of Yamaha stuff. I feel like everything that Yamaha's done has always been pretty like outrageous almost. Like the YXZ is just like stupid on all sides of things, even though it's cool. It's like it's dumb. All YXZ owners are like, yeah, like the fact that it's like a sequential trans high revving engine.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then they build like instruments. Like Yamaha has like keyboards.
That's correct.
They did the cylinder head of the 2J. They were employed by Toyota to design the cylinder head. That's why that engine's so good.
Yamaha has made oil injected fuel pump assemblies for outboards for Mercury.
Yeah, they
like
build
Yamaha's
outboards.
Yeah, Yamaha's out everywhere.
And they build like badass jet skis. And then they also did like weird stuff like the Lexus LFA.
Yeah.
They did the exhaust
Oh gosh.
just to make the exhaust note sound good.
Gosh.
Like they just do weird things like that.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a cool brand though. To be like, what else cool can we do? Let's
They
put
make, like,
Yamaha on everything.
trumpets.
Yeah.
like,
That's so funny.
why would they need to make these weird ass across the board things?
I don't know. So everywhere you look, you're seeing Yamaha.
They're doing good. It just
yeah.
seems odd.
You know what else I found fascinating about Honda was the backstory on how Honda was created. And it had to do with, I'm not going to try to get the names and dates. The point is, after Nagasaki and Hiroshima were bombed, the guy, Honda, essentially had a bicycle background or something of that nature where he worked in two wheels. And he started making these little generators that people could power their homes with because the whole power grid is, Nagasaki and Hiroshima just got atomic bombed. So he made generators so that people could power homes and basic appliances and things like that. So he created this mobile electricity. They run on gas. And then after the power grid and stuff came up times later, months or years, whatever, he took those same generators and attached them to bicycles. And then he had motorized bicycles. And then it developed into Honda motorcycles where he's like, oh, we're making motors and motorcycles. And that's how like Honda started. I always found that pretty fascinating. That's a cool way to start a company.
From like a war-torn situation.
Yeah.
Kind of built his way back up.
Yeah, I thought that was a fascinating story.
I love Honda. I mean, they've always made cool stuff, and they're so like their philosophy is always like Little Hammer, like just small changes throughout the years, just keep getting a little bit better, and like just keep creeping up on it. One interesting thing, about what happened after Japan after the two bombs is the U.S. was now employed to fix their power grid. After we dropped two bombs on them, we forcibly got the contracts to fix their power grid. So the north side of Japan is like the US, 60 hertz. The south side is 50 hertz. And that was by design. they chose to do that to make them less connected.
Wow.
Pretty scummy
Wow.
altogether. To do like, because you go to Australia and I think they're on 50 hertz. So like if you're filming on your camera, you actually have to change the frame rate because lights will flash.
Lights will flash the whole time.
Yeah, and like we're all on 60, so it's different, but it's a weird situation that two different grids on
on the same country.
Small country.
Fairly small country, yeah.
It's about the size of like the east coast of the US, like from
it's an island.
North to south.
They are a full island peoples.
Yeah. And they got some great fishing there.
Yeah.
So, oh shit, we didn't even talk about why you and Kevin hate each other, dude. Like, all right, I'll say it. I get why you didn't, interview Kevin, whatever. But Clay Millican, dude, guy's a national treasure.
Yeah.
You can not film Kevin, it's fine. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Kevin. You're my boy.
I mean, yeah, dude, that was just a funny thing. I mean, a lot of times when I'm doing performative Spencer, as you call it, it's for the crowd and the live audience. And we were just kind of making jokes. And I was like, oh, I was going to burn back to go see Kevin. But I mean, I don't even know where to start. Do I go into the whole thing or do I just let it sit out there as it was?
I mean, you could just leave it. They were pretty far in anyways at this point, so.
There's just so many good assumptions that were not actually accurate to what happened. Like, I was there, I was part of it, and so I just read what people assume it is, and it's like, those are almost better versions than what really happened. Yeah. You know how when sometimes, like, people see you with a broken arm, and the true story is actually lame? It's like, whatever happened, like, with the confusions with production and media and delay of the race, and then now we're speeding up the race, it's like, there's so many things happen. I'd rather just somebody be like, no, they hate each other. It's
that
funny.
Is true. It is good for internet beef. It's a pretty funny beef too.
Yeah.
That you skipped KSR team.
Well, here was the idea. Here was the thinking, right? So originally I was only supposed to interview 4 drivers. After the first 4 drivers, I had production yelling in my ear. Not yelling, but production staff kind of being like trying to get my attention. Firmly. So, like, I wasn't paying attention enough to know they were talking to me, so I'd pull my earplug out. So then, now I have somebody behind the camera, also production related, that's like, giving me hand signals to keep it going, but giving me thumbs up along the way saying, we're good, but keep the process moving. So you see how my interviews end up slowly coming to not very good interviews because they're pushing me. So then we get to Kevin, and I'm like, oh, Kevin wasn't last. I was like, I would skip him to go back to the last driver. There was 2 more drivers, so I go interview them, and I'm going to touch Kevin on the way back. But as I'm on my way back, one of the head honcho of production stuff is out, and he's like out of his office during the race. Now, this is a guy who sits in his office during the events, managing the pay-per-view, and he's like kind of like this hovering, and he's out of his office like yelling at me. He goes, you took your earpiece out. We've been trying to get a hold of you 8 drivers ago. Get in here. We have to do the anthem now. Like, we got to start this show. And I was like, I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So like then I didn't have a chance to actually talk to Kevin. And I forgot his co-driver was Clay. And so it ended up being like it was a very personalized, intentional thing, but there was so much going on. And then you
could have skipped 8 drivers though. Like if things went to plan, it would have been like
it would have just been the front half of the field, which wouldn't have, but then when it's only one that you skip, it does look personal. So the whole thing, I set it up, and I totally see the lens it was looked through, but I think, and after that, we were supposed to be able to do driver interviews during the heat one of the race. I was supposed to be able to interview all the teammates of the guys whose other teammates are in the cars right now. So I was like, I have plenty of time to interview Kevin and Clay. There's 2 heats of this race. Yeah. Well, what ends up happening, we get over there, we don't have the ability for whatever technical limitations. We were unable to do any of those driver interviews. So I'd be standing next to Kevin. He's got, he's doing the radio thing with his driver, doing the, being his intercom or whatever you call it, his spotter. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't do the interviews. The technical function wasn't there. So it's like I was going to get Kevin and Clay, but then it just kind of fell apart and landed poorly.
And you assumed you'd probably be interviewing him at the end when he was potentially in the winner's circle, because it's not unlikely that he ends up in the winner's circle.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that as well. So there was a lot of things. But I think people got really sported up when he, on his videos, it's like engaging with your fans. You're liking the comments and stuff. And so that's what got screenshotted into the Facebook group, and people were just going crazy with it. It was funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when like a beef starts to swirl. I've never been involved in anything like that where people think I hate someone.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny to let things fester without actually like commenting on them
Yeah.
too. Like I know you guys made jokes back and forth to each other, but to let like the internet crazies, conspiracy like crazies like start to swirl and then they just think the worst.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
They think the worst pretty quickly.
it's their job, dude. Their job is to check our indiscrepancies and
To be the sleuth.
inconsistencies. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It was funny. I mean, I never at any point was like so like devastated by what was going on. It was really light. I thought it was all in good fun. A lot of people had what they had to say, and I had what I had to say. And
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, like, I get this comment when I'm in, like, other people's videos sometimes where people are like, man, Cooper's a real dick. Like, the way that he talked to them, like, why would he say that to them? And, like, my tongue is sarcasm. Like,
yeah,
I speak to all my friends sarcastically, and I can take any amount of sarcasm that somebody else will hit at me.
yeah.
So
You're very satire in your humor.
it's, yeah, like, it's all, like, joking. But when I'm in, like, a 10-second clip on somebody's channel, I could easily come across as a dick.
Oh, dude, I see my own footage and I cringe too. It's like people will be like, he's such a cringe-worthy guy. It's like, oh, I want to like comment like, yeah, dude, what was your favorite cringe point? Because I have my own too. It's like nobody likes hearing themselves sing or talk or any of that, right? And so it's funny, but
I've just fully accepted, like, you know, people
Me
can
too.
say that.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, oh, man, he's such a dick. But then, like, if you call me up at midnight and you're like, hey, I'm broken down on the side of the road, I'm also the first person to go help you.
yes.
So,
Yes.
I'll also make fun of you the whole time, but I'll also be there helping.
Yeah.
So I think I always say this, like, if I have to help you, like, in a situation like that, I reserve the right to make fun of it.
Yeah, that's your territory. Well, I got straight on the side of the road, ran out of gas in my hybrid vehicle, and Parker had to come fill me up with gas in my hybrid vehicle. And he's like, he definitely roasted me, and that's what you do, you know?
I think it's earned at that point.
That was another thing somebody said in the comments. They were like, you guys must not ever tease any of your good friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're so right. Like, usually you tease or poke fun or at people who you know can take it. They see the humor in it. And, you know, Kevin did see the humor in it. We were bummed. We both agreed it was bummed we didn't get any clay, but minor oversight, minor problem,
Yeah.
easy resolution.
My problem is, you know, people say that, like, oh, you guys don't tease your good friends. I say things like I know somebody for 10 years to people I don't actually even know.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny, though.
If you don't know me,
Yeah.
you may think, wow, that was really mean of what Cooper said, but, like, it's in a joking manner. But
Yeah.
it may be mean. I'll give you that. It may
Yeah.
also be mean.
I don't know. It was funny. Kevin and I talked through the process.
You want a coffee pouch?
Yeah, dude. You were
So,
talking about that before.
If anybody doesn't know, these are dip style pouches, but they're called grinds and they're coffee. And if you're like me and you drink a lot of coffee and you enjoy coffee, you're going to enjoy these. They're coffee pouches, wintergreen. So if you hear me
Smacking
enjoying
away.
one, yeah. But they don't have any caffeine. I mean, they don't have any they have plenty of caffeine, but they don't have any of like the addictive kind of stuff.
Let's do a little fact check on this here. Okay, how many milligrams do you think of caffeine are in a Red Bull?
Like a 8 ounce, I think it's 200.
It's very high. They're one of the
Like
highest.
250. I know a Bang has 300.
A 12 ounce of Red Bull is 111 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Bang is 300.
Okay. Yes.
That's spicy.
Correct.
That's why, like, when I drink a Bang, I get like that jittery
Yeah.
feeling, you know? Like
Yeah.
I'm sitting on a washing
It
machine.
says people who are pregnant should not increase their more than 200 milligrams per day. So tell your wife, I'll tell mine, no bang while you're pregnant. But what's interesting about this is only 25 milligrams of caffeine. So it's a much lower dose.
There's an espresso one that has 50.
Cooper made a good point. Like, when we were talking about this, I was like, dude, I don't know. It's like, I'd rather a coffee. And he goes, yeah, but now you don't have to pee. And you got this at a Love's gas station. And the more I thought about it, this is great. Like, if you're driving through the night and you're not a nicotine user, you're not anything else, like, I would do this. This is the same exact thing you get in an energy drink, but now I can motor down the road, but I'm not taking in fluids. So now I'm just getting dehydrated and high on caffeine.
Well, it's also like chewing gum. Like you do it kind of like to keep yourself busy a little bit.
Yeah.
So, they're not paying me, but they should. Grinds, coffee pouches are legit. They have all different flavors too. This one's like the minty one, which is also kind of nice because, coffee kind of ruins your breath.
That's true.
So to have like a mint flavored.
It also does taste like there's coffee grinds in my mouth right now.
That's the best part. You get to chew on them a little bit if you bust open the packet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that's fun.
Yeah.
My neighbor, so we're in this neighbor situation here where 2 over from me called my neighbor directly next to me, called code enforcement 5 times on him in a week for a car in his backyard was low on air pressure. 2 cars that haven't ran in the 3 years I've been here or haven't moved are low on tire pressure and sitting there, no registration. He had a bonfire in his backyard, burning some brush, called the fire department. Like, there's this dispute going on now, and it's like ramping up, I feel like.
Oh, shit.
And I kind of feel bad because like that's messed up. Like we live in like a neighborhood where every house is on like an acre.
Uh-huh.
It's assumed you're going to have like a boat or like a side by side or a couple non-running cars. Like,
yeah,
it's assumed that that's kind of the neighborhood that we're in. Like, if you want a neighborhood with none of that, go live in one of those shit neighborhoods that they're building by the track.
It's far more a neighborhood with excess vehicles than not.
Yeah, like that's what you're gonna get here.
Yeah.
So to be doing this after, they've both lived next to each other for 20 years.
Something happened, dude.
Never an issue.
Something happened.
All of a sudden, now I'm like, it's a really bold move though to start doing this.
Yeah.
Because once you start calling on your neighbors, like you're gonna get it. Like it's gonna come around to you.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect when it comes to code enforcement. No one.
No.
The same deal. Like show me the person, I'll show you the crime.
Yeah. Dude, that's so funny. I have that going on in my neighborhood right now. I have a neighbor that is at the end that basically, all right, so one neighbor is the recipient of countless code enforcement and HOA violation complaints. Mm-hmm. And they feel it comes from a different person as well. And it's so funny, but I've heard, both of them talk out both sides of their mouth on the story. Like I've heard very different. Mm-hmm. And so I stay mostly out of it. But it is so interesting to see and be aware of what goes on in your neighborhood.
Well, in 2022, they voted that you can't do anonymous tips anymore to code enforcement.
Really?
So if you send if I call code enforcement, they get to tell the person who called them.
My neighbor got that information too, mm-hmm. and they even confronted the neighbor about it while he was walking his dog, and he's like, "Oh, I never did that," and she's like, "It says your name on it.
Yeah,
they have to tell who it is.
You can't do anonymous."
And he was just like, kind of like walked away. Like it's like,
which I love. I love that they got rid of the anonymous tip.
Yeah,
I think you should have to put up some money. I think you should have to not put up some money. I think you should have to. If you make a code enforcement violation against somebody, code enforcement now gets to poke around your property. You opened your door to them.
Gotcha.
So like I call on my neighbor, but now code enforcement also comes to my house and looks around.
So it's like can't throw glass, stones in a glass house.
Can't throw glass stones at a
rock house.
At a rock house. At a rock concert.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a big consequence. Nobody would call code enforcement then if it opened you.
You better be
snooped.
up to code.
Yeah. If you're gonna, so that's an old Bible parable, about talking about the speck in someone's eye when you have a plank in your own. And the idea is like you are so worried about somebody else's imperfection when you don't observe mm-hmm. your massive shortcomings.
Yeah.
I see that.
So that would be like in drag racing, if you want to file a complaint, like I think he's got cylinder heads that are, against the rules.
Yeah. Let's look at your cylinder heads.
You have to put $1,000 up.
Oh, really?
And if you're wrong, he gets that $1,000.
Oh.
Depending on the class. Sometimes it's $250, sometimes it's $1,000. Like you have to put some skin in the game.
Yeah.
Tossing that out.
I don't think I'm feeling it.
Oh, that's fine. Not everybody can handle it. There's a trash right there if you want.
Oh. It's pretty grindy, dude.
I like it. Just goes in my lip and I just sit there. But maybe I'm a degenerate.
I don't know.
I'm a degenerate caffeine user, and I've made this joke before that basically you can give me caffeine in almost any form, and I'm like, all right, I'm in. Like, if you were like, hey, it's in this needle and you have to heat it up on a spoon.
Okay, cool. It's just caffeine.
Like, shit, how many milligrams is it?
Dude, I got a question for you. This is something that happened that I called you immediately after about that was really funny. And I think I started the phone call off. I said, hey, Cooper, is there such thing as swap meet etiquette? Like, is there an unwritten set of rules of how you act amongst your fellow men at a swap meet? And you were kind of like, well, I assume there's some rules. And I don't know. We just kind of like went into that. But in general, do you think there's unspoken, like at a car meet, at a car show, at a show and shine, you don't go up and touch or get in anybody's car without direct permission, right?
Don't touch it, lean on it.
And that's not written down anywhere, but that's an unspoken rule. Do you feel that there's anything that goes for
I haven't been to
meets?
a lot of swap meets, but I'd imagine there's some kind of unspoken rule. I haven't really participated in a whole lot, but I'd imagine there's some etiquette. I'd imagine you would want there to be.
Yeah. And the first time that it ever crossed my mind was when Garrett did his swap meet at the Freedom Factory. And I brought my wife's white OBS 7.3. It's like a 96 extended cab. It's relatively good shape. It's had some money thrown into it, so those things are still there. And we go in and I go in. I drove there by myself. And I go in and park it next to Easton. JH's like full-time guy now. And I say hi to Easton. He says hi to me. But I have two people looking at my truck right there. It was actually Ty. He was like pretty interested. He like likes the OBSs. He's like asking about the truck. He's a Ford guy. And so he's like showing interest, and his wife's with him and they're poking around, asking questions. And Easton, bless his heart, and I was dying laughing when this happened. He starts just bad mouthing the absolute shit out of my truck. And he's just going, that fucking truck don't start, don't run. It was sat at JH's shop for 2 years. I wouldn't spend more than $7,000 for that. That thing's a pile, just laying into the truck. Mostly true things, I'll give him. But I'm like, dude, like, I have buyers here. It's like, you know what it made me think of? So that like went on for like, I don't know, enough time for me to like kind of just like let it die. What was I gonna do? Confront it where it was. And so
move the car.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna move the car. But it almost got to that point. I found the humor in it though, because it reminded me of Step Brothers when they're like trying to sell their house, but they're acting like the neighbors, a bunch of weird neighbors and stuff. One of them's dressed in like a Nazi uniform and just all that funny stuff. And I was like, yo, how is this any different? You're like really just fucking up my game over here. I'm trying to like garnish interest in this truck that I know could be better, but it's 26 years old. It's not a show truck. It's just a driver's truck.
He was probably projecting because I think he was trying to sell a Maverick, which are notoriously bad.
Okay, so I try to take an even point of view on this, neither mine or his. What's the dead center thought point? So if somebody's selling junk, if you go look at Wikipedia and you get the overall consensus of Mavericks, what would you say the overall consensus would be?
Yeah, they're junk.
Okay, 7.3 OBS.
Like a 2013 Maverick, 2012 Maverick. Before the X3s came out.
I don't know enough about them, but I'm just making a comparative assumption here. Like if you looked up the 7.3 OBS motor or truck, you'd probably get a lot of people say it's shit because it's slow, they're underpowered and stuff. But you're also going to be able to get to where you're going in that truck.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Maverick is objectively bad. Like, the belts went all the time, and to change the belt, you had to take the driver's seat out. And
Jeez.
I only know all this because when Garrett was trying to get a hold of Maddie, he bought a Maverick to impress her. And
I didn't know this.
Yeah, well, probably similar to your deal was he used Chad to get to Maddie, and then he started off-roading to try to hang out down in Bradenton more with those guys, and he bought an Maverick, and it was constantly broken.
Yeah.
Like, every Monday, we would all show up in the shop, me, James, and then he would pull up with a broken Maverick that James would have to fix all Monday.
All Monday.
So that he could break it the next weekend.
Oh, geez. So it was just dogging on him all the time.
Constantly broken. But, yes, so there is probably an etiquette there where you don't badmouth the vehicle of somebody else trying to sell
Yeah.
publicly to the people that are trying to buy it or potentially going to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if he recognized that Taylor and Ty were kind of just like garnishing interest. Like, we never really had any further discussions about it. It's not like it actually prevented anything from happening. He didn't talk away an actual buyer. But I found it funny. Like, I love the guy to this day.
Was your wife interested in selling it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a loss on it for sure. Like, we know we're in it deeper than we'll get out of it. But we're not putting any effort into it, It's also like it's paid for. I keep it there. It does work. It does drive. I got enough land to keep it at. Like, what the hell does it matter? It's not hurting me to keep right now.
Well, it's an interesting situation, too, because he was there when they were working on it.
That's true.
He does have an inside avenue to seeing it as they wrenched on it.
Yeah, he knows more about the truck than I do. He's more mechanically inclined than I am. He knows more about that truck because if he was working there. So that's what I'm saying. Most of what he was saying was true, but you just didn't have to say it at all.
Yeah.
You could just let me try to shoot my shot and sell.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah, it's like, that's
away.
what I found funny. And again, I got no hard feelings for it, but it had to be talked about because it's something that's funny that I know people that listen to this podcast have been at swap meets and they're like, yo, dude, I was selling the same thing as my neighbor and I literally hear him just, blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. It's like, I just thought it was super funny.
So next Cletus and Cars swap meet, it'll be out there. Somebody should go buy it. I think they have one in like December or something.
Yeah, I think there'll be one coming up.
Yeah, I think there's one pretty soon from when this comes out.
Yeah.
I like those swap meets. They're pretty fun.
They're fun to see what people got. I just don't own any cars right now that I can buy stuff for. I mean, I haven't bought a power plant and a transmission yet to commit to.
You had a Mustang, right?
I do have it, and I know I'm going a Coyote, but...
Yeah. Well, I put in a lot of work to get that Mustang.
You did. You were the guy that drove there with me. You pressed the button on the winch. We drove home. We used your gas.
I strapped it down and, you know, I had to talk to the guys that were selling it.
Yeah, because they knew who you were, so you had to play social media nice while I was like just figuring out the paperwork.
Well, you can't really haggle too much once you get recognized almost.
Yeah.
You can't be like that dick that's trying to get $5 off for a headlight or something. You know what I mean? Like you kind of just have to, you go back and forth a little bit, but then you just have to give in at a certain point.
Yeah.
So if anybody's ever haggling with a social media guy, you can just take them for what they got.
Yeah. I think I paid, $1,000 for it.
Yeah, it's just like a roller.
It's just a roller. Nothing special. Good body, clean title.
Red New Edge roller.
Yeah.
It's a good burnout car, though.
Yeah.
What are you building? You want to talk about that at all? Or should we wait? We could wait to talk about what you're building out of wood.
Yeah, I'd rather wait so that way it can be us talking about it when it's done. I think it'd be more exciting. And I don't want to be like I'm doing this and then something happens because we both got pregnant wives.
That's true. So another thing that I came across the other day was, do you know that there's a large amount of men, not even a race thing, that can't swim? Grown adults.
Really?
Have you ever talked to a grown adult that just like, yeah, I sink like a rock, I don't swim?
I've never met anybody that can't swim.
I posted this on Facebook, and there's a lot of people that just can't swim across the board.
Wow.
I was like, and they're like, well, I didn't grow up by the ocean. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's like a reasonable excuse.
Yeah.
Like, I went to a community swimming pool as a kid.
Gosh.
Like my grandma would pay like $5 and we'd all go in and swim for the day.
Yeah. There were swimming pools growing up. I don't know. That is weird. I didn't know there was that many people.
It seems like a hazard to not be able to swim.
It's definitely a skill you'd like to have when you're in a pickle, to be able to swim.
I also just can't fathom like going into the water and not being able to like keep myself from drowning. Like I can't fathom like not being able to like keep my head afloat.
Yeah.
I can't even
understand.
It's
actually scary to think
how that would happen.
Yeah. If you move your hands in just a dynamic motion, you can keep your head above the water. But
even panicking,
you probably, yeah. That's why sometimes when you see people drowning, panicking, they are like right there just below the surface because they're like they're staying where they're at, but they just aren't figuring it out.
It's a crazy thought. Like I can't understand that at all because like I did lifeguarding lessons as a kid. Like I learned some
Cooper,
stuff
people
like that.
are so freaking stupid. Those stupid idiots. They can't fucking swim. I'm so tired of stupid people putting their dumb stuff on the internet being like, 53% of men can't swim. I'm fucking over it. I'm kidding.
No, I mean, hey, listen,
I'm
if you're an
teasing.
adult and can't swim, you should probably learn. There's a lot of water out there in the world. There's a strong chance.
It's 3/4 water.
Well, one guy said, like, I've never felt the need to go in water, more than waist deep. And I'm like, well, you can still swim in water that's waist deep.
Yeah.
Like, you can still, learn to swim in that.
Bro, when I went out I remember surfing in Hawaii when I was a kid. And
Unable to swim, just surfing, right?
well, it's so funny. I was literally a half mile from the beach. Like, we were long ways away from the beach. And as you're paddling, your hands are touching the coral reef. Like, it is so shallow. You got the huge reef you got to paddle out past to get to the waves and stuff. But I remember, like, dude, it looks like we're out here, but I could walk. I could have walked to here, and I'm paddling this. It was hard, dude, but...
Oh, man, it's such a crazy thought. Like, I don't know.
Not be able to swim.
Because, like, even, some people were like, well, I almost drowned as a kid. And, like, same. Like, I spent so much time in the ocean. I almost drowned so many times.
I almost drowned often.
All the time. Like, you'd get held under by waves all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It was
boogie boarding.
the North Atlantic. Like, there was a lot of waves.
Yeah.
Large waves, swells, undercurrents, and all kinds of things. Rip currents. Like, you'd get dragged out all of a sudden, and you'd have to, like... I helped save people as a kid because, like, I spent so much time in the ocean that I'd see people that were struggling and drowning.
Yeah.
So, like, to think, like, a couple near-death experiences.
Yeah, I've had some interesting experiences surfing, being in the ocean in California. San Diego, Trestles, La Jolla, Long Beach, Imperial Beach. A lot of those surf spots were great, but all the terrains on the bottom are very different. They create very different water structure and water habits. So those rip currents and stuff like that are pretty wild. We used to have this surf spot called Last House. You go to San Diego, and then you go down to Coronado Island, and then you go all the way south. Last House is where there's this house that was the last house, and from the house you could see the U.S.-Mexico border. And there was usually pretty good waves there. But I've seen guys pull hammerhead sharks out of the water while I'm in the water surfing. And probably like 6 foot long, like as big as this table, like big sharks.
It was cold water, too.
Very cold water. Oh, yeah. It was like probably mid to upper 50s, like probably like 54 to 58 was a normal surfing temperature.
That's the rough part about California oceans is you get that cold water.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it would get 60, but...
Like Long Island, we get warm water because we get a northern...
Yeah.
Like the jet stream comes from the south, whatever the water comes from the south, whereas California comes from the north.
Yeah.
So we get like a nice warm
California water is always cold, but you usually have a wetsuit and occasionally be hot enough. But I remember we used
usually
to...
pretty dirty too.
Yeah, but
I've been runoff.
I've been in the water, like warming up or like peeing in the wetsuit, for example, where you have the board at your elbows and you're in the water just straight down. And I go to get back up and I kick my feet to kick water. Nailed something hard as a rock. And I'm like in 15 feet of water and I just kicked something like alive that was swimming past me. I was like tight. And you just get back on your board and you're like, what do you do? Like, I'm out here. It was so scary.
Yeah. I've been around quite a bit of that, and it's definitely scary in the water. Like a lot of like open water can scare a lot of people. And it used to freak me out a lot too when you were like real far from the bottom.
Yeah, I've always, so people ask you, when people would ask you what your biggest fear is, my goofy answer to that would be my second biggest fear is being stranded on a very small boat in the ocean. Stranded, let your imagination determine. No water, broken boat, a dinghy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Being stranded. And the reason I say second scariest thing is because I like to think that there is something far scarier that my mind can't really put together, and I want to respect that level of fear. Because if I can dream up what I think is the scariest, in my opinion, that's not the scariest. The scariest thing, you don't know what it is because your mind doesn't know how scary that thing is until it happens.
Yeah, the ocean one is terrifying. And what other one kind of hits me a little bit too is like, that movie The Martian? Where the guy's stuck on Mars?
Oh, yeah. And
that's similar to Ocean.
Matt Damon.
That's similar to Ocean, but like times 10.
Yeah.
And it's like probably in the next 20 years, that'll be like a real thing that we actually have to continue, like battle with in the world is like people getting like lost in like the drift of space in a way. And like that's worse than the ocean because at least like a current may bring you back. But like if you're like adrift in space and you're like going in a direction with some speed, you're just going to keep going in that direction.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do.
You're just going to keep going until you hit something.
Yeah. Forever.
Yeah. Like that's
Or
like a
until
really
something
freaky
swallows
one.
you up. Yeah. Being in the indefinite void of space. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracies that have to do with people dying and being associated with NASA and NASA doing like cover up death reports, being like, oh, training accident.
Yeah.
But people like track down that, well, there was a satellite launched on this day and it's possible that, it could have been a manned satellite operation. It's like, I've heard a lot of those, especially back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, like when space exploration was very green and new. And the V2 rockets were just getting developed.
You hear that with Russia all the time. They're like, this was the first person in space. It's like, no, that's probably just the first person that made it back that you publicized.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Ivan or something.
Well, I was thinking this the other day. I was like, why is there no talk right now for Elon Musk and SpaceX to develop some type of rocket transportation system leveraging low Earth orbit, but bringing people back down promptly? And what I mean by that is if you could take off in a rocket from LA and you could get to New York in an hour and 25 minutes or such time frame, well, rocket travel could transport high and very wealthy but high needed officials and special response teams to anywhere in the globe in a matter of an hour or two. And I was like, I started looking into it. Well, they tried that. They've done this kind of stuff post World War II with like V2 rockets and stuff, and like very scary to think about. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on making that a mode of transportation today?
Well, like they had the Concorde, and that was like
Mach 2, bro. I'm talking Mach 10.
Yeah, but like even that, like that only lasted 10 years. They made a bunch of Concordes. They went from like London to New York in like 3 hours, or something crazy.
Yep.
And they were pretty good.
Yeah.
They had very little failure rate. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, like there was like 100 of them, and I think like 2 crashed. So like that's pretty high failure rate when you're talking aviation.
Yeah, in aviation, that is a pretty high failure rate. And their failures were catastrophic life losses.
Of course, they hold like 80 people or something.
Yeah.
So questionable, but that didn't take off. No pun intended. Did not take off very well. You'd think it would have.
Okay, well, let's talk about Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. He has that capsule. What if instead of going up, going to space, come back down, you go up, but you just have that parallel trajectory to the Earth? You're going against the rotation of the Earth. You go into low Earth orbit. Earth's rotating. You're zooming. You go and pull the Elon Musk reverse boosters, come and land. Like,
I think that's what Richard Branson was trying to do with his Virgin
Galactic.
Yeah. I think they were trying to like just crest out of outer space and then come back. And that was like you could pay for that trip. But like the exciting part of that was like you crested Earth's orbit instead of like, no, but we actually got somewhere really quickly. Maybe it's not that quick to go so far up and then so far back down.
Okay, so now you're talking like the military Russian and United States like hypersonic missiles where they go up out of the boats and then are hypersonic in a matter of seconds with solid like rocket booster engines going like Mach 7. Okay, so you're saying don't go big into the atmosphere, just stay low.
Maybe it just takes too much time to get up that high and then back down.
Well, you're also fighting gravity. I mean, gravity. You're fighting against gravity the whole way. So that's why it takes so many thousands of pounds of thrust to be able to go up. I don't know. I feel like it should be simple to launch a rocket into the air, get enough altitude, plan that trajectory. I mean, from 85 or 100,000 feet in the atmosphere, I guarantee you, if you were over in Nevada, you could probably see LA and you could probably see New York.
Yeah.
In the same eyeballs. If you were up that high. So it's like, get a rocket that high, let it fall the rest of the way, reignite ignitions and land it, or just let the capsule parachute out.
Well, Elon Musk said they can land that rocket anywhere they want.
Exactly
like,
my point.
It's so good at landing now, but it's probably just a cost thing.
Well, he said it's about $100 million.
Pretty spicy to land that thing.
$100 million per launch is what I've seen Elon Musk say, and I don't know if that meant for Falcon or what. I didn't even look into it that far.
Because they have the new spaceship. What do they call Starship? Starship's the one that they haven't successfully done anything with.
They successfully did test stuff.
It went up twice and blew up.
Yeah.
Both times.
Yes.
But this last time, I think they successfully didn't destroy the pad it took off from.
Yeah.
Which is a big expense.
Yeah, that was a wild thing that they saw in the first one. Like, oh, wow, we melted concrete.
Yeah, like we destroyed the entire pad.
Yeah.
But this one did a little bit better, but it also blew up.
So I'm thinking with Jeff Bezos' smaller rockets, less expensive. Probably not going to get there as quick, but I just thought it'd be so fascinating to get from New York to LA.
Do you feel like he's doing it for the wrong reason? Like, I feel like he's doing it just to be like, oh, I can keep up with Elon. Like, I feel like he doesn't really care.
Bro, do you know how
about
many
Blue
CIA?
Origin?
Do you know about the CIA contracts Jeff Bezos and Amazon have?
Yeah, he does
Hundreds
all
of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Do you know prior to that, Bill Gates, you know everything in like the army is like run on Microsoft? It's Microsoft computers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm being told this from guys I know that are in the army. But like, sure, there's new stuff now, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. So to say they're doing it for the wrong reasons, I mean, it's not just being like a philanthropic space enthusiast. He has these contracts already with these people that help develop stuff. So
I think I just read this morning that Blue Origins is buying the space program from Lockheed Martin that they had. Like, they're taking it over from them because I guess Lockheed Martin didn't see that as something they needed.
Wow.
I think that's how
Very
it was
interesting.
working. I don't know if they were buying. No, like Blue Origin's probably buying from Lockheed. That's probably a big paycheck.
Yeah, we're talking billions.
Maybe their stock will go up because their stock hasn't been.
Well, let me ask you this. I saw something interesting on Instagram where it showed all the major defense contractors in the United States. So Raytheon, GE, Boeing, Skunk Works, the list of them. And it showed at what percentage of their net profit the previous year in 2021 was from government defense contracts, right? And I don't remember which one, but one of them was 96% of their gross or net profit or whatever came from government contracts. And then I began to thinking, it's like, so if 96% of their work is for the government, how is this not a government owned company then? How is this any different than like the Communist China Republic, like owning companies for the government? It's like a government owned company. If only the only client, your only customer is the government.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to listen to what they say.
If your only customer, if you were a concrete company and you had 96 out of 100 trucks went to one person's job site, what are those other 4 trucks doing?
Yeah, it's interesting because like how involved are they with like decision making is really what it comes down to. Is somebody on the board of Lockheed Martin also a government official?
I think yes.
Most likely.
Because you'll see these guys be defense contracting director of the blah, blah, blah. And then they retire and they're like, oh, chief operations officer of Raytheon. And you're like, how do you go? So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff. And
I was looking at, I haven't heard this before, but I just noticed this yesterday or this morning. I was looking at Lockheed Martin stock and it was like it had like this drop on October 5th. And then October 5th, or like from the October 4th to 5th, it dropped. And then October 5th, it had like this rocket back up. And then like 6th and 7th, it went back up. And it was weird because October 5th, it went up. And October 7th was the large attack that happened on Palestine. I was like, why did it happen? Why did the stock go up 2 days before a war broke out?
Damn, I don't know.
That was weird. I was like, because it's right there. Like you could see the stock price do that. I'm sure there's something else behind it, but it was weird that it was right before 2 days.
Well, have you ever seen those stats on like Nancy Pelosi? She's got a better trading record than like.
She probably invested. But there's people that make bots that follow her because you have to disclose.
Yeah.
So like you could have like a bot that like a trading bot that just copies what she does, and some people are successful because it's actually not smart to follow Warren Buffett. It's smart to follow AOC.
Politician. Yeah, exactly.
She has a long history in this stuff. She was a bartender, and then
she knows currency and exchange markets very well.
Exactly. Did you see Argentina just elected that new guy?
Oh, he's going off, bro.
It's exciting to see.
Yeah.
So libertarian, I like to see a fellow libertarian
but being sporty. Yeah, he's being really sporty with it.
They might switch to U.S. dollar. They might just ditch their currency and switch to U.S. currency. Which is a questionable move.
I think there's plenty of political positions you could have that are both smart, wise, and helpful on either side of the aisle. Like, I really don't give a shit. If you come in and start tearing shit up like that guy is like immediately doing something with like all pedophiles or like sex offenders or stuff. I can't remember what I read, but.
Well, any minister of like department of whatever, like he was just like, we're done with it.
Yeah.
Like Department of Education gone. Department of Health gone.
No
Department
way.
of like anything, like any minister of
Oh, really?
education, any minister of anything, like he's just like, we're slashing it all.
No way.
And Vivek said the same thing. He said, day one of my presidency, 50% of government employees are getting fired. I was like, wow,
Jeez.
that's wild.
That's crazy.
He said, like, we're just going to go based off your social security number if it ends even or odd.
Oh my God.
Completely unbiased.
Wow.
Like, odd is gone.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, something
Yeah.
like that. Like, just unbiased.
That's so crazy.
Doesn't matter what you do. But we should probably end that off there
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. We talked about a lot. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Yeah, dude, always fun.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, we got babies coming, so mine will
Yeah.
probably be here by the time this comes out.
Gotcha.